Over the last week or so, we've had a number of updates about a future slate of Disney Star Wars film projects. The online reaction was as subdued and philosophical as you'd expect.
Millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror.
We received clarity on a new Rey movie, featuring cinema history's most lukewarmly regarded protagonist, from a trilogy that stuck the landing poorer than the Superstar Destroyer from Return of the Jedi, has aged worse than Madonna, and produced more horseshit than when Artax from The Never-Ending Story freaked out during a depressive episode and involuntarily lost control of his bowels in the swamp of sadness.
Rey Skywalker.
Daisy Ridley's new director, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, will helm a film about a new Jedi Order set 15 years after the sequel trilogy. Obaid-Chinoy says it's about time we had a female filmmaker come forward to shape the galaxy far, far away. Comments Obaid-Chinoy made about 12 years ago were unearthed and caused an inevitable ruckus online.
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
We need to temper this somewhat. Obaid-Chinoy was referring to men in the context of a feminist activist director from Pakistan making Academy Award-winning documentaries about the plight of women there. In that context, eliciting those kinds of reactions out of culpable or permissive men within a certain very specific cultural milieu is understandable, though her delivery and manner was hardly ingratiating. Once we've passed that, however, we're left with the other thing. Why is it about time we had a female filmmaker come forward to shape the galaxy far, far away? Just because a genre or franchise doesn't have a form of representation doesn't mean that it suffers from a lack of representation or has to account for that lack of representation. In terms of the director's chair, there's no evident reason why Star Wars needs a woman's touch, nor a thwarted desire among women for a female perspective in the franchise. It's not as if Star Wars organically emerged as a phenomena or fell to earth, something that humans had nothing to do with and then some men found it, jumped on it, claimed it, and have hogged it ever since. There's no implicit rule that an intellectual property benefits or evolves from being socio-culturally spread around. It's not about time for anything, except better storytelling in the galaxy far, far away. So then we need to make a distinction between activist authenticity and transference. What about these accomplishments and your background qualifies you to direct a Star Wars film above a whole bunch of other cinematically accomplished Star Wars devotees? What about the documentary aesthetic and problems that you're tackling about honor killings in Pakistan is transferable to Star Wars? And what lessons are we supposed to take from the fact that Disney thinks your positioning in the role is ideal? That such castings and notions are suited to a space opera multiplex entertainment property? The film will have a female production head at Lucasfilm, a female lead character, continuing on from being the female lead character in the previous 3 films, and a female director known almost exclusively for her exposés on the marginalization and mistreatment of women. And is this director a natural entertainer with instincts for cinematic magic, who is plugged into the culture, cool, hip, and able to rouse a crowd, as you might hope from someone about to helm one of the greatest pop culture franchises of all time?
Ali, I can do much better than that. Who would like to meet the Jedi Master? Come on, make some more noise.
You might very well relish, in certain circumstances, making men feel uncomfortable, but it's going to require that you get them in the cinema first. The other Star Wars news is the revelation there will be a full-length cinematic feature film about the Mandalorian and Grogu, audaciously titled The Mandalorian and Grogu, that will be directed by Jon Favreau and go into production later this year. The Mandalorian and Grogu film is absolutely a sound decision from a business point of view, though it probably would have been better suited after the first, perhaps second season of the TV show, before it descended into farce. Many people will have greeted this news with a highly provisional yay, and more asterisks than a whole collection of Gozikny and Uderzo books. But you and I have been through this too many times, and we know Disney as well as any long-standing nemesis in history or fantasy. Disney is our Moriarty, our Lex Luthor, our Murdoch.
Deep cut.
Firstly, just because it is or was the relative bright spot in the Stygian gloom of Disney Star Wars doesn't mean it's actually great quality or compelling. Rather, if we're actually allowing ourselves to be blandly, mildly optimistic about such a feature with two mildly appealing characters, then we've become too desensitized. Making a film with these two characters goes completely against the spirit of the original show. We all gratefully tuned into the first season of The Mandalorian because it was a much-needed escape from Disney Star Wars feature films. It was what we avidly took to because it wasn't the bloated sprawl and grandiose fumbling of the sequel trilogy. We liked it because it focused unabashedly on a more intimate scale, episodic aesthetic, with installments in a kind of nostalgic throwback to Monster of the Week, primetime or Saturday morning TV fare. When it departed from that format into big action spectacles and undesirably larger series arcs in the third season, it lost whatever tangible goodwill it had from critics. Stretching that episodic formula into a full-length feature film would be the antithesis of the show's character, and a sadly ironic transformation into the thing it was a breath of fresh air from. Similarly, while we all have a degree of fondness for Jon Favreau, if we've learned anything, it's that the system, or rigmarole, or risk-averse entertainment technocrats can dull the appeal of anyone, especially in the hive of scum and villainy that is the House of Mouse, and especially when the stakes are higher financially by an order of magnitude. Furthermore, the two main characters have fundamental flaws as feature film protagonists. We can't see the face of one, and the other doesn't talk. After the first hour and into the second of a feature runtime, the limitations will become evident, even if the mask eventually comes off for a spell. Also, you know that strong female characters will be involved, and mass squads of Mandalorians will fly around in overly busy action sequences, making it the worst of both worlds. Lastly, for all its charm, The Mandalorian show isn't proper Star Wars. The Mandalorian is kitsch Star Wars. It's a nice enough, friendly variation with a cowboy and western vibe. Though original enough, it has the feel of a spin-off. Star Wars had themes. This will have a stoic guy in a mask, a few words, and Grogu. Star Wars had human characters undergoing fateful dramatic character arcs and abstractly expressive dialogue and affairs of the heart. This will have a stoic guy in a mask, a few words, and Grogu. Star Wars has iconic heroes and villains with subversive revelations. This will have a stoic guy in a mask, a few words, and Grogu. Yes, you have a baby Yoda, and there's the Force and a father-son dynamic, but there really isn't much substance there. They feel more like ancillary or sidekick characters rather than consequential characters. But then again, this is Disney, Lucasfilm, and Star Wars in 2024. And I think many of us checked out long ago. And if they can put out a film that's mildly charming in moments, then it'll probably make some money. Though of course not enough money to offset the appalling losses from the new Rey film.